32-6-0 for Penn.
What a swim!
Six of them.
Welcome to the Bracket Report, brought to you by Delphi Bracketology. I'm your host, Brian Tonsoni. Joining me today is senior editor Nikita Lear and fellow sponsor Dave Gilbert. It's episode 9, season 4. A lot of basketball. We're really close to Selection Sunday, and we're going to talk about all things brackets today on the show. If you're interested in our work, find us at delphibracketology.com. Also on Twitter at Delphi Brackets. We'd love to answer your questions. Delphi Bracketology, we do brackets, and we've been working all season long, and it's really about to end with our big meeting coming up. But Nikita and I were very fortunate to be able to cover the Horizon League semifinals yesterday. Thanks to Greg Rakestraw for the suggestion and setting us up with the connections. We had a good view of 4 quality basketball games. Nikita, share with our listeners a little bit about your experience, what you liked about yesterday, and just covering basketball in general.
So I guess my favorite part was getting to miss a day of school for basketball. That was definitely nice, especially being a senior. Going and just seeing the women play and then seeing the men play and just the different atmospheres between the two. It's really crazy. I guess I've never realized it until I've really seen it back to back like that.
It's something that's really beneficial for our students and for us as sponsors to be able to go to these games and see how the inner workings of conference tournaments, Big Ten basketball, ACC basketball at Notre Dame, and to be in interview rooms. And really it's just a lot of fun. And we try to learn how to write and do these shows with all that information. It was a good night. The games were intense. We had front row seats right behind. You were right behind the scorer's bench. I was right behind the visitors' bench, and you could really see the athletes, the officials, and you get a really good aspect of the game when you're doing that. So, yes, we put people on 1, 2, 3, 4 seed lines, but it's also a heck of a lot of fun to cover them. So talk specifically about who you saw play in the women's and their outcome, and I'll talk a little bit about the men's outcome of the Horizon League.
So with the women's, it kicked off at noon with Cleveland State versus Wright State, and it was a good game, very back and forth. They definitely went back and forth the entire time until there at the end, the last quarter. It was 83-50. Cleveland State won. And then the second round of semifinals, we had Green Bay versus Purdue Fort Wayne. And once again, a crazy game. Definitely tied a couple times. Just so intense with the way they were playing ball. Both got off to a rough start, but ended up being Green Bay won by 64-55. I definitely predict that between Cleveland State and Green Bay, seeing how they both played last night. I think Cleveland State's going to come out and win it all.
And in the men's semifinals, we had the first game, Cleveland State against Oakland. Oakland won 74-71. Oakland was able to come from behind and then hold off Cleveland State late. Really intense game. Oakland is the number 1 seed and favored to win tonight's championship. They'll be playing Milwaukee, who defeated Northern Kentucky 82-75. And Northern Kentucky caused a lot of turnovers in the first half, got out to a big lead, and then Milwaukee adjusted and was very aggressive in the second half, getting downhill and getting to the rim to win that game. I'm going to predict Oakland and their zone defense to come out on top. But I sat behind the Milwaukee bench. I really like their coaching staff. So I am going to be unbiased, I think, tonight. But our prediction will be Oakland to win that. We're going to turn over the show to Dave Gilbert. He's going to go over the automatic qualifiers. There have been 6 conferences that have already decided who is going to the NCAA tournament. Dave, who's in our tournament?
All right, so far right now we have Morehead State is in the tournament. They won the Ohio Valley regular season and the tournament as well. You have Drake that won the Missouri Valley. They were the 2 seed in the tournament. They knocked off the number 1 seed, Indiana State, in a really good game on Sunday. You have Longwood, who's probably the long shot of the team so far. They were the 5 seed in the Big South tournament and were able to win the tournament. You have Stetson, who won the Atlantic Sun tournament. They have some local flavor, some Indiana flavor with Jalen Blackman, who starred at Marion High School. You have James Madison, who won the Sun Belt Conference. They kicked off the season with a big upset win on opening night at Michigan State, and then proceeded to win their conference tournament and make the tournament. And then Samford, who also was the regular season and tournament winner for the Southern Conference. They opened their season at Purdue, so some local flavor there as well. they just play a fun style of basketball as well.
And you know, some of these conference tournaments are a lot of fun to watch. They're also seeded 11 through 16, and some of the big upsets, the 12 seeds, the 13 seeds, come from your teams that had really good years and then end up winning their conference tournament. James Madison is one of those teams you may want to fill into your bracket. Drake really did a nice job in holding off Indiana State. There's just really good basketball. Samford is likely to be a 13 seed, and sometimes 13 seeds beat 4 seeds. They're really strong this year, the 12s and 13s. So maybe pick some there. So we're rounding into Selection Sunday. Our big bracket meeting is tomorrow night, Wednesday. We'll try to place everyone 1 through 68 and decide that before the conference tourneys. We believe the conference tourneys matter. But just in seeding, if a team goes to the championship, they may move up a seed line. But most of the decisions are made. This year it might be a little more important, the results in the conference tournament, because resumes are so tight, as we'll talk about in Section 2 of our seed lines 5 through 7, which we're very confused on. But we'll have the Wednesday night meeting. We will talk about contingency plans. We want to watch this team for selection on the bubble. We want to watch this team for possibility of moving up. And if we have 5 or 6 teams that are really tight, we'll probably be texting each other. And then Sunday we meet to finalize everything and watch the selection Sunday. And then we'll call it a season with Delphi Bracketology with our last show going over our results and predictions of the actual bracket on next week's bracket report. So stick with us here. When we come back, we're going to talk about the middle of the bracket after this break.
McCullingham time. Oh, no! It's good.
This one is caught.
There you
oh,
go.
Wow, Dawson makes a great catch.
Spin, win, 3, bury it for Leland Walker.
Tie the game they do with the dunk by Malik Edmonds. What a play.
Oh, my goodness.
I feel a little momentum starting to fall Ellen's way.
That into the air.
Wrestler!
Wrestler! Whoa!
Welcome back to the Bracket Report. I'm Brian Tonsoni. Dave Gilbert is here along with Nikita Lear, and everyone likes the top 4 seeds. You can find that on Delphi Bracketology. We know there's some major discussions there. Kansas has some players sitting out. Are they going to fall to the 3 seed line, 4 seed line? We have Kansas at a 3 line. A lot of questions there. Be watching our work for the actual seeding of those. But we're going to talk seed lines 5, 6, 7. We have had teams move up and down with no results all week. In homeroom, in conversations between Dave and I and students at the games last night. So we're going to go through each line and talk about some of the teams in the resume, what's strong and what's not strong. So Dave, we'll start with you. We had this morning Clemson on the 5 seed line. We had them on the 7 seed line earlier, and then we're comparing teams. What do you think about Clemson, and where do you think they might end up?
So with Clemson at the 5 seed line, they do have really good wins at North Carolina and at Alabama. 2 top 10 in the net wins, and both of them are on the road, which the committee looks at. But they also do have 2 quad 3 losses as well. When you take a look at those other teams on possibly the 5 line with BYU, Utah State, and Nevada, they do have the better non-conference strength of schedule compared to those teams with a 62, and the other ones are all triple digits. So they do have the 2 big wins, a nice strength of schedule, but they do have those quad 3 losses kind of looming over their head.
You had them as a 7, move them to a 5. I think there was some discussion today to have them at the 6. This is how close these resumes are. I think Clemson has those wins, Dave. I agree with you. But, man, those losses in comparison to those other teams. But we don't feel comfortable about anyone on our 5 seed line. So it's going to be interesting to see tomorrow night how we settle that debate. Nikita, you want to talk about Nevada?
So, Nevada, they have a terrible non-conference strength of schedule, being at 246. However, they can win on the road. Being 8-3 on the road, it's going to show that they can come out, and it doesn't matter where they're at, as well as they're 3-1 on a neutral site. So it also shows that they can win no matter where they're at. But they also, once again, have that quad 3 loss, and between the non-conference and the quad 3 loss, those 2 really stress me out. Utah
State and Nevada are on the 5 line from the Mountain West. The Mountain West, usually gets one team, and it's been discounted a little bit in the past. But this year, the Mountain West, we've talked about all year long, is a solid basketball conference. And 4 teams have very tight resumes. We have San Diego State, Boise State, and just South Carolina between them and the 5 seeds, Utah and Nevada. So we have to really decipher that. Maybe there's some separation of the conference tournament there. That's where maybe the conference tournament will make a difference on who stays on the 5 and who stays on the 6 with razor-thin resumes. Moving on to the 6 seed, another Mountain West team you want to talk about, Dave, San Diego State.
Yeah, taking a look at San Diego State, I've seen some, bracketologists had them as high as a 4 seed. They do have a good net at 20. They do have a good non-conference strength of schedule at 15. They got 2 nice wins at Gonzaga, and then they also beat St. Mary's on a neutral court. But they're just 3-9 in Quad 1, and they're only 5-8 with their road record. So they have a losing record. They're 6 games under 500 in the Quad 1. So really the only thing they have going for them is that good net. And a couple solid wins.
And they were 14th overall in the reveal a couple weeks ago. And so that gives you some pause of dropping them too low. We have them on the 6th seed line. And, man, I think they could be a 5, but you've had some teams pass them in the conference. And again, conference placing does not matter. Everyone's independent. But you do see better resumes from some other teams around them. So, Nikita, South Carolina is going to be just a tough team. We probably will miss on South Carolina. They can be anywhere from 5 to 7. Explain your thoughts on South Carolina.
So my thoughts on South Carolina right now is what sticks out to me like a sore thumb is the 2 Quad 3 losses and the non-conference strength of schedule at 282. Once again, I've talked about those before, but just those 2 stats in general, they're very important. Not being able to have those quality wins, not being able to play those better teams is definitely a downfall. However, they once again can win on the road. Winning on the road is important for the tournament, knowing you're traveling 3-0 in a neutral site. That means they can come in to no matter what gym they're at, and they can show them what we can do.
South Carolina is going to be interesting because they have a 49 net, and that's usually a 7 seed if you have good wins. Last year, Missouri Northwestern in the 40s was in the 7 seed range. But in the absence of really outstanding resumes here on the 5, 6, or 7, we believe that South Carolina will get credit for those wins. But the non-conference strength of schedule and the high net combined is going to keep them. I think they have a 4-seed resume with the wins. But I think they're at least going to drop down to that 5 or 6 seed line. Maybe a win or 2 early in the SEC tournament, and the committee will think that they can move up to a 5. And when we say no team in the 40s has been up into 5, we've mentioned this every year. Trends are trends until they get beaten. And we'll talk about that when we get to the bubble. Texas Tech is the team that has been all over the place for us. Again, at 30 net is acceptable. They have a bad strength of schedule, non-conference in 304. They do have some really, really good wins on their resume. So we have them slotted in at the last 6 right now. I'm trying to think Gonzaga wins tonight. I think they're definitely a 6. If not, Gonzaga moving up to a 5. We'll talk about that next coming up on our 7 seed line. So that 7 seed line, we have Gonzaga, Wisconsin, Washington State, St. Mary's. And again, don't hold your breath. This is likely to change on our drive home probably. We are really going to move these teams until we just take a vote and are solidified on this. Dave, Washington State has two wins you want to talk about. What else do you see for them?
Yeah, taking a look at Washington State, they have 2 really big wins. They beat Arizona twice. They also have a nice neutral win against Boise State. But they have a Quad 3 loss, and they didn't really play anybody in the non-conference. Their non-conference strength of schedule was 299. So when you look at that 45 net, where they're placed about the net with the net, it should be around probably a 7 seed.
I think that's likely where they're going to end up. 2 good wins, Carrie. They have a couple other nice ones. Nikita, St. Mary's, they have been anywhere from a 5 to an 8 for us all year. They have a big game tonight against Gonzaga for their conference championship. What do you want to talk about here with St. Mary's?
St. Mary's is very confusing. They have a 17 net, and for me, a 17 net should be higher. However, they're a smaller college. They've beat Gonzaga, they've beat Colorado State. I feel like beating them tonight might move them up again because that would be the second time they beat them, as well as they win on the road. They have not lost a single game on the road.
That 9-0 road record is outstanding. And the committee chair said earlier that, he likes road wins. He likes scheduling tough. So we've kind of taken that and, where does that apply? Where does that not apply? I think if St. Mary's beats Gonzaga, they're at least a 7, if not a 6. So I think tonight's conference tournament really matters. So those are some of our 7 seeds. I want to see who else I have on the 7 seed line here. I moved my sheet here. Wisconsin has just played really bad basketball for a long period of time. They were a 4 seed at the reveal. They have a lot of wins in the first half of the season, and it is a body of work every game. The games in November matter just as much as the most recent games. But we have seen in the past committees have moved teams down based on what they've done late. Xavier got dropped out of the tournament with quality wins and a 5-game losing streak, or 5 out of 6 late in the season. So Wisconsin was a 4 3 weeks ago. I think they're at least a 7. And if we're wrong, I think we're going to be wrong because we have Wisconsin too high. I would be shocked if they were on the 6th seed line, but maybe that's a possibility. So as we wrap up Section 2, we're going to talk about the bubbles, the bubble. 5 teams for 4 spots is what we're going to really try to make our decision tomorrow night. Are there more teams below that can maybe go on a run for selection? Yes, but I'll remind our viewers that a couple years ago, Texas A&M won 3 games in the SEC tournament, was playing on Sunday with the chance to make the tournament, and they did not get selected. So they were 2-9 in Quad 1, ended up with 4 Quad 1s and added another Quad 2 and didn't get in. So it doesn't necessarily mean automatically that these teams that are 4th team out, 5th team out, like in Iowa, I'm trying to think who else, Wake Forest, some of those teams we have a little bit lower. They're still alive. We're not going to erase them from our sheet. But we think it's between St. John's, Texas A&M, Indiana State, Virginia, Colorado, and I'll add New Mexico in there. 6 teams for 4 spots. Nikita, your thoughts just in general about who you would like to see in, who maybe you would like to see out when we start our meeting on Wednesday.
In general, I'm probably going to be bringing up St. John's and Indiana State. Mainly, those 2 are my favorites. However, I personally think Texas A&M could probably fall for Colorado State. They have 4 Quad 3 losses, and for me, that just, we don't want that. We need people that have better wins.
Yeah, for me, Virginia has been blown out. Dave shared on the drive down that in 9 of their losses, 7 have been like massive 15 or more points. Was that the right thing?
Yeah, I think 6 of their losses have been by 20 points or more.
6 by 20 or more. I think that matters, or that should matter, right? When you're 51 net, you have 1 or 2 nice top 20, 30 wins. You haven't really beaten a lot of people, and you haven't played well. I think that's a recipe to be left out. They're currently in our bracket. Colorado, their best win is Washington State of 7, and that's the only win against teams that are in the tournament. And they have a couple that were on the bubble. So they have a great net at 27 and a 500 record in Quad 1 and 2 without losses. So that's just I think, as we'll get to Dave here talking about a team that needs to be in, I think those teams are on the bottom, probably fighting with New Mexico for the last spot in the tournament if I were a pure voting member on the NCAA committee. Dave, a local team, we've been talking about them all year. They got a long week to wait.
Yeah, selfishly, I want to see an Indiana team get in with Indiana State, but they have to sweat it out now since they lost in the championship game on Sunday to Drake. They do have a solid net, 29. We've talked about this before, the trend. There's no team that's had a net in the 20s that's been left out, but, trends can be broken. They won their regular season conference. They got to the championship game of their conference tournament. You talk about, strength of schedule, but if you look at their non-conference strength of schedule, it's very similar to St. John's and Virginia. And it's hard for a team like an Indiana State to get people to play them. they got to play Michigan State and Alabama this year, but none of the Big Ten teams, most of them don't want to play in Indiana State because they don't really have much to gain from it. If they win, okay, you're supposed to win that game, but then if you lose, that's going to hurt you come Selection Sunday. So teams like Indiana State have a hard time scheduling, whereas your Power 5 teams like a Virginia or a St. John's, they could schedule tougher. And then, I don't know that I necessarily want to see a Virginia team in the tournament that's been blown out 5 or 6 times.
And scores 40 points.
Scores 40 points, yeah.
Right. At least Indiana State, if they get beat, they're going to put up some threes and play modern basketball. So there's our bubble for you. We'll have a lot more coming up Wednesday. Check our website and everything. But that'll do it here on segment 2. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the conference championships that are getting started this week. We'll be back after this break.
McCulling in time. Oh, no! It's good.
This one is good.
There you
go.
go.
Wow, Dawson makes a great catch.
Spin, win, 3, bury it for Leland Walker.
Tie the game they do with the dunk by Malik Edmonds. What a play.
Oh, my
I
goodness.
feel a little momentum starting to fall Lynn's way.
Wrestler!
For the ultimate Wi-Fi experience, you need a managed Wi-Fi service with advanced Blast Wi-Fi. Blast Wi-Fi systems provide ultimate coverage, ultimate performance, and ultimate power all the time. Available from Mulberry Telecommunications, Blast Wi-Fi systems feature the latest Wi-Fi 6 technology and are equipped with unrivaled bandwidth and 4 times more simultaneous connections so you can connect tons of devices throughout your home with no lag and no downtime. Plus, with 24/7 support and remote troubleshooting, you can rest assured that Mulberry Telecommunications is always here to help you should any issues arise. It's the ultimate Wi-Fi experience, and it's a blast. Blast Wi-Fi is now included with Mulberry Telecommunications fiber internet packages. Contact Mulberry Telecommunications at 296-2885 today to get started.
You are watching the Bracket Report, brought to you by Delphi Bracketology. Again, I'm Brian Tonsoni. Nikita Lear and Dave Gilbert have joined me. We are looking at conference tournament action, and every conference tournament is either been completed or will be completed this week, and you'll have 32 automatic qualifiers. We're going to go through those tournaments for your viewing and give you the favorites and our predictions. So we're going to start with the MEAC Norfolk State, and they will win it. They'll be a 16 seed more than likely.
I have the SWAC. Grambling State is the favorite, and we predict that Grambling State will win that tournament as well.
I have the Big 12. We have the Houston as the favorite, and we predict them as winning.
That'll be a fun one to watch, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they got 9 teams going to the tournament. Maybe someone could knock them off. I'm going to talk to you about the Mountain West. Utah State's a favorite because they're the 1 seed, and I don't know how you pick. They have 6 teams that are likely to be in the field. New Mexico, maybe that 6th team. And then you got UNLV, who's beaten a lot of teams lately. So I think 7 teams could possibly win it. I think we threw a dart at this and said Nevada as the winner.
The Big East, UConn is the favorite. They typically play well in Madison Square Garden, so I expect them to win as well.
I think they're dominant. I mean, Marquette's good. They've had some injuries. I think, St. John's and those other teams, Creighton, anyone can beat them, but man, UConn has been really dominant, so we have to predict them.
Then we got the MAC. Toledo is favorited to win, but we predict that Ohio is going to win.
The MAAC, not the MAC that Nikita just talked about. Quinnipiac is the number 1 seed overall. Just a fun team to say. So, if you're down and out, say Quinnipiac. But they're going to lose. I think we're going to go with Fairfield to win the MAAC.
In the ACC, we have North Carolina as the number 1 seed, but we think if Duke and North Carolina match up again, it's tough to beat a team 3 times, so we'll take Duke in the rematch.
Conference USA, we have Louisiana Tech. We all cannot spit out words today.
It was a long night last night
Yes.
at the Horizon.
As the favorite as well as our predicted to win.
So that brings me to the Pac-12, the last year of the Pac-12 as we know it. Everyone's splitting off and going to 97-team conferences and getting $1 million buyouts and all that kind of stuff. But we think Arizona is the dominant team as a 2 seed. Likely they're not going to have a lot of problem winning that tournament. So Arizona is our prediction.
In the Big West, UC Irvine was the number 1 seed, and we predict them to win. The Anteaters, one of the better college mascots.
Absolutely. They got a great baseball hat, too.
Yeah.
The logo.
We got the WAC. We got Grand Canyon as the favorite, and they're going to win it all.
And then we got the Ivy League, where I was denied entrance when I went to college back in the 80s. So I just watched the basketball. Princeton was the top team. They're really good net. They're in the 40s in the net. Watch them as an upset if they get in. But Cornell's also pretty good in there. I think Cornell's going to win. Maybe we're just rooting for upsets.
The Atlantic 10, the A10, we have Dayton is probably the favorite, but we're going to go with Loyola Chicago to win that tournament.
SEC, Tennessee is the favorite, but we're going to go opposite and go Kentucky for our prediction.
I'm going to talk about Kentucky real quick. They're up and down. Like, they don't guard people, but they can score 197 points. That Reed Shepherd kid can play. I don't know if they can win 3 in a row, but, man, I might predict them to go to a Final Four in the bracket because they have the athletes and the guards to win in March. That might be a Final Four sleeper depending on how the bracket shapes out. I'm going to go the American Conference. It's really one, if you're an Indiana State fan, that you want to watch. You want Dayton to win the A10, which we talked about last week, because they're already in, I imagine, with where they're at in the bracket. And Florida Atlantic is in probably too as an at-large. So if those two teams win, that opens up a couple spots because right now the top seeds in those conferences are different. Richmond in the A10, and then I think it's South Florida. So those are the ones that we fit into our brackets. But if the teams that are at large already can win, that opens up a couple spots, and I think that guarantees Indiana State. So if you're an Indiana State fan, go for Florida Atlantic, but we're predicting Memphis.
And then the last one, Big Ten tournament, that starts tomorrow in Minneapolis. Purdue is the number 1 seed, and we predict that they will win the tournament and go back-to-back, winning the conference and the tournament in both seasons.
As a Purdue fan, any thoughts about resting and the danger of playing 3 games? You had a couple injury scares the last game.
Right, the Mackey Arena was kind of hushed on Sunday when Zach Edey and Braden Smith both went down. Personally, if they got beat on Friday, I would not be too upset about it and rest some more. Last year, they won the Big Ten tournament, won 3 games in 3 days, and that didn't turn out so well in the big dance, so I would not be opposed if they lost on Friday.
Quickly around the horn, it's March Madness conference tourney. Either share something about what this week is for bracketology for you, Nikita, if you want to go there. Dave, conference tourney, NCAA tournament. Just your thoughts about why it's a fun week.
For me, it's a fun week because I just sit there during school, during whatever I'm doing. I'm on my phone in the back at work, just chilling.
Mr. Sims is watching.
Checking up on everything, keeping our bracket. Like, I think I came to you as soon as you got there yesterday. I was like, listen, we need to move teams around because that was what I was doing all day in between games. It's a really fun week. It's nice to see where they're going, and I hope to be traveling to the NCAA tournament this year.
Brandon Short, Joe Vogt, our tech guys, if you're watching, please don't block any of the ESPN sites going forward. Dave, it's tourney week and March Madness right around. Your thoughts?
Yeah, kind of like Nikita, it's nice to have afternoon basketball. I have a student teacher right now, so it's nice to be able to watch some games on the computer in the afternoon while she's teaching for me.
Well, we're setting the academic world back here at Delphi Bracketology, but we do things well. We were mentioned on Barstool Sports, mostly sports today, so we got to go back and watch that. Hope it was positive, but we're getting a lot of publicity. We appreciate every one of you viewing. We hope you enjoy this week and Selection Sunday. We'll be back next week to tell you how well or how poor we did and then predict the NCAA tournament. But that'll do it for this week's episode of the Bracket Report. Again, Delphi Brackets on Twitter. Ask us questions. We'll try to get back to you. And our website, delphibracketology.com. Go to the seed list. We update that almost daily. The bracket, it takes a little more time. So, Barstool wasn't happy. We had a week-old bracket. But go to our seed list on delphibracketology.com. I'm Brian Tonsoni for Dave Gilbert and Nikita Lear. Thank you for watching.
McCulling in time. Oh, no! It's good.
This one is caught.
There you go.
Wow, Dawson makes a great catch.
Spin, win, 3, bury it for Leland Walker.
Tie the game they do with the dunk by Malik Edmonds. What a play.
Oh my
I
goodness.
feel a little momentum starting to fall Lynn's way.
Oh!
Wrestler! Wrestler!
Whoa!